Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy,
And I'm Diva
and this is Twisted Listers, a podcast about murder.
and Liz.
And this is part 2 of Murders of Academia. That's what I've been calling it, and I think we actually already have one called that. I can't remember. You guys?
No, we have killed on campus. That's different. And then we have
okay.
teachers killed by students. So there's definitely some overlap. It's like a Venn diagram
Yeah,
between
I
all
see
these
it.
topics.
Mhm.
But
Okay, so we don't have it, so we're good. So never mind.
this is more professor centric, I felt.
Yeah, I think all of them involve professors, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I guess it's not, and I don't care. Dude, you guys, lists are not endless, we've learned. In our love of
Nope.
lists, we've learned that they have their limitations.
Yeah. And we also do sequels, we do repeats. It's okay.
There's so many
We
good cases out there, you know?
Yeah. And there's some lists that are vast. Like we could do Family Annihilators as a whole podcast because there's so many.
We really could. That's just
You
so
know?
fucked. That's so
So
fucked up that that's the
there's
case.
lists that, like, especially the popular ones, where I'm like, let's just do a sequel.
Yeah. Also, I'm super tired, so Diva's gonna talk and I'm gonna sound like a zombie, but I'm listening and I am here and I'm happy to be here. We're entering into busy season at work, so can you see? Look at my eyes. Can you see my eyes? I look high. They've been like
Just from
irritated all day
just
too.
from exhaustion, the redness.
Well, I think I also got sunscreen in my eye like hours ago, and I washed
Ooh, I
my
hate
eyes
that.
out like 6 times. I washed my entire fucking face in an attempt to get this shit to fuck off. Did not work.
Yeah. Oh my
So,
gosh.
in any case, here we are. Here we're
Mhm.
doing the thing. Twisted Blisters at night. And
We're always at night. What are you talking about? We're never in the morning anymore. We used to have a morning edition.
I
Now
know,
we're
but
always
now
at night.
we can't. There's too much work to be done.
Mm.
Capitalism is fucking
We used to do
bullshit.
like a Sunday morning thing, but you've been baseballing.
Oh yeah, I have a
Yeah.
kid. My life belongs to him. So anytime he's got anything going on, that's where I am. That I mind less than working. Much less. Much,
Yes.
much
Yes.
less. So in fact I work so that I can do that. So there it is.
Exactly.
In any see? God damn it.
Oh my
I'm
God. Bringing the
sorry.
energy to the podcast.
I'm sorry. All right, whatever.
All right.
Guys, I'm like 1 week out from my goddamn Patreon that I've been talking about for like 3 months. And to those of you
Mhm.
who are patrons, thank you for supporting us.
You're
I
building
realize
anticipation.
the
Everyone's
turnaround
so
on our
excited.
cases, we both work really busy jobs and we do 2 podcasts a week. So if you are a patron, it's basically because you want to support us. And we fucking love you so much for that. And thank you so much, guys. And we will have more stuff out soon. But also, if
Yes.
you pay $5 a month, which is, I know, a huge sum, you can listen to these episodes early and ad free, which is nice because we do have ads now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because, we're popular enough
That
to
is
make some
something.
money. So, if you don't want to have to listen to the bullshit ads, you can join us on Patreon. Anyway, you go first, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
I just went overboard researching this, so it's
Yeah,
going to be a
your
lot of
beefy
info.
case.
Everything is going to anger you. Everything.
Okay.
Beginning to end. So I'm going to rouse you out of your sleeping state with rage, maybe.
Great. Let's hope. Let's hope.
So,
Something
all
needs to
right.
wake me up.
I know you, and I know that you can be both sleepy and rageful, though, at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can do both.
I can.
So this
A
is
tired rage.
So this is the case of Thomas Meixner.
Okay.
And this happened in October 2022 at the University of Arizona, which is in Tucson, if you don't know.
This
Yeah.
is
Very recent.
yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Very big case. I didn't think it was big at first, but I was like, oh, actually, there's a lot of information. A lot is happening, even though it's fairly recent. About a year old at this point.
Yeah.
So Thomas Meixner, a little bit about him, he was originally from Maryland. He got a BS in soils and a BA in the history of science, which is very cool. So we got 2 undergraduate degrees.
Soils, like specifically
Soils.
soil.
Dirt.
Okay.
Yep. At the University of Maryland. And it's very overachieving to get 2 degrees in 2 different things. Like I always kind of
Yeah.
wanted to do that. I actually thought about that. Thank God I didn't, because that would have cost me a lot more money and time. So I didn't do that.
Mhm.
But it is very cool. Um,
Mhm.
he eventually got a PhD in 1999 at the University of Arizona in hydrology and water resources, and he specialized his research in alpine biogeochemistry.
What? What? I don't know what you just said. I gotta tell you.
No, yeah. I will say, it's too nerdy to explain why, but at work I just had the pleasure of actually interviewing a hydrologist who works for the city of Amsterdam, and we talked about hydrology for like 45 minutes, and it is very nerdy, but it is very interesting. Like water flows and like waters going from rivers to dikes and the dams. And like it was like I've just had a recent hydrology like moment. So
Mhm.
it's actually pretty cool. It sounds really boring. It's really cool.
You
Um
guys can't see my face, but it's like hard
hy-
thinking, a little bit of concern,
hydrology.
a little bit of
Um
confusion.
I'm like, hydrology is cool, Cindy. No, it is cool.
Should I Google it
And
so I can like be on the same page?
you should, yeah,
Hydrology.
it's really fun. So he
Okay.
worked his way up the ranks academically at Arizona, and eventually became the head of the Department of Hydrology and Water Resources, where he was formerly a grad student. So that's quite an accomplishment.
That is.
Um, yes. And as a researcher, his work at this time, as of last year, actually focused on really cool, important issues relating to water access in desert areas.
Man, you
So,
are just like screaming that this guy's the goddamn victim. You're
yeah,
like, what
yeah.
he was doing was so cool and so important. And I'm like, God damn it, this guy is dead. I
Mhm.
can tell right now.
Well,
Fuck.
yeah, a lot of hydrology actually is fighting climate change and water, both like cities sinking and water access and access to clean
Mhm.
water. So it's like a really important thing to be a nerd about.
One of the
Um,
women that that we went to college with, but that was in my
yeah,
program, her name was Caitlin, and she was learning public policy so that she could use it to go fight for water rights. So
yeah,
yeah,
no, it's really cool. It's a really cool thing.
it is very interesting and
Um,
important.
he wrote his own little university webpage bio adorably, like in third person, which you have to do. And he said, quote, Tom Meixner grew up in Maryland playing in streams and digging in the garden. He has matured to the point where now he gets paid to occasionally play in streams and
Aw,
still gardens on his own time, which I'm like, "This is so cute."
that is so like
Um,
it's so sincere and earnest and like
yeah,
simple.
just always like streams, man. Yeah.
Yeah, he's down for the water.
He was also a beloved husband and father to 2 boys who I believe were like college aged at this time.
Okay.
So he's an all around wholesome guy. Everyone has glowing, glowing, glowing things to say about him. And let's talk about another guy who's very, very different.
Oh,
This
good.
is in 2022, the 46-year-old Murad Dervish, who was
Okay.
originally from Pennsylvania, also spent some time in Maryland as well. And Murad grew up a normal, if kind of shy and isolated kid that eventually, I guess, struggled with drinking. Besides that, I couldn't really find any clear answer as to why Murad ended up the way he did. There's clearly some mental illness at play, but no one ever comes out with any kind of suggestions. Um,
Right.
Other than he was fine, then he wasn't.
He
Uh,
might have also been, like, just really socially awkward, and the way that he dealt
yeah,
with that was just by, like, drinking a lot, and then it became, like, a dependency thing.
that's all we got. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
okay.
so he studied and taught in hydrology also at San Diego State University, and
Mhm.
eventually he found his way, which I'll talk about that time later. Eventually, he found his way to the University of Arizona, where he enrolled as a PhD student in Professor Meixner's Department of Hydrology.
Okay.
So later we'll hear from Dervish Sr., Murad's dad, about several horrifying incidents he had been through with his son as a young man. He said
Mhm.
he once attacked him with a crowbar, and smashed
Whoa.
his restaurant up, like smashed all the equipment in the restaurant that he managed. And he
Why?
also separately attempted to strangle his mom with a scarf and said that he was going to kill her. He had to be like stopped.
So he's, like, a
Again,
very disturbed human.
yes, it's not, there's no background of why. It's just, and even I believe for the mom incident, he said it was like out of the blue. So it's like something's up with
He was
Murad
like,
here.
"Okay, yeah, sounds like
Yeah.
it."
He had a long history of violent behavior, including a restraining order that was filed against him in 2020, and domestic violence case from when he attacked his mom, which was in 2011. And around that time when he was teaching at San Diego State, probably as a teaching assistant and as a grad student, one of his female students filed stalking and harassment charges against him.
Okay.
So he's got a lot of stalking, harassment, violence, restraining orders, things of that nature.
Just like
Um,
bad shit.
yeah.
Like he's just obviously a fucking not great guy.
So at the University of Arizona, he reportedly threatened his coworkers and the faculty in the hydrology department because he's essentially a PhD student, and the faculty are like your bosses, right?
Okay, yeah.
He, in some cases, threatened certain faculty so extensively that they just stopped coming to campus. They had to change their lives like dramatically. And this, I believe, included like in-person threatening, email, like calling, things like that. Just like 24/7 threatening. That's all this guy does.
Why is that allowed is my question.
Oh, just get ready. It is very allowed. Um,
I don't
so
okay.
one professor in the department was able to get a protective order against Murad Dervish for like just himself personally, but he was still allowed
Okay.
to come to the department. And for a whole year, the whole year that he was at U of A, the faculty had to deal with this really severe harassment and shitty behavior from Murad while he was still a student. And for their safety, like they took like organizing their own safety measures on themselves. They bought themselves bulletproof vests. Some of them would switch offices so that he wouldn't know which one was where.
Why is he allowed to do that?
It sounds like more than one faculty person moved their home because he
Why
found
is
out where
he
they lived.
still there?
They would keep non-lethal weapons on campus. I'm imagining like pepper spray or something or a taser. And they would keep loaded weapons at home because if they were arming themselves, they were terrified because felt this guy was constantly threatening, "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to do shit to you." Threatening.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Murad also went on racist, anti-Asian, and anti-Jewish tirades in these threats and harassing messages. One time, he told a professor that, quote, Jewish people, and he used a slur instead of Jewish people, should not be allowed to exist anywhere ever. Uh, um, and I'm not sure. He also reportedly believed that Professor Meixner was the head of a quote unquote Jewish conspiracy against him. And just to clarify, although it doesn't really matter, Professor Meixner wasn't Jewish
Okay.
personally, but this is like sounds like a mix of paranoia, mental illness, and maybe just being a racist asshole or all the above.
Yeah.
Um, so the university, and we know that it's very popular nowadays, the Jewish conspiracy notion, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Pretty
so
pathetic, but yes.
So the university was actually made aware of these racist emails in January 2022.
Okay.
So the university does things, but they don't. Let's talk about that.
Mm,
So, February of last year, Murad was officially banned from campus, and they started the process of expelling him. An email was sent out to staff with his picture saying that he was banned, and they warned everyone to, like, stay away from this guy. He was officially expelled in June.
okay.
Um, the university did attempt to get some criminal charges related to harassment and intimidation filed against him,
Mhm.
but the county attorney said there wasn't enough evidence, which I'm like, what?
What?
What? Yeah, not enough evidence. But the
Okay.
University of Arizona police went to Murad's home to speak with him only one time. They didn't really like follow up with him or talk to him at any point in this investigation.
Mhm.
Um, he also was never put on the quote unquote exclusionary order list. So I think that means that even though he was banned from campus, there's still a way he could come to campus. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like
Yeah.
I feel like it's not a full ban somehow. Um, in May 2022, the report. Oh, sorry. Well, I'll get to the report later. In May 2022, um, the university police basically forgot. I don't know. That's being generous. They didn't file a criminal complaint.
Mhm.
They submitted a harassment case saying, "Can you press charges?" But they didn't do the next step of like paperwork. So the DA's office just closed it.
Seriously?
Yeah. In September 2022, university police filed a second criminal report with 20 counts of harassment against two employees at the university. Um, and I will explain. Oh, yeah, I guess I'll explain right now. So the reason the police did not even look at this
Mm-hmm.
at all with any kind of, let's say, appropriate timeline, the police said they didn't look at it because they submitted it in a fucking like packet of
Mm-hmm.
campus misdemeanors that happened like this month, including like underage drinking, including like dumb shit. So of course the police are going to put that at the bottom of their priority level.
Right.
Their build is nonviolent usually. Their build is like whatever, and they're misdemeanors. And the university didn't say, "Hey, can you just prioritize this one?" Or like they didn't like shout out any like special mention. Like this is actually urgent. This guy's dangerous.
Like this guy is clearly fucking dangerous and has a long
Yeah.
and storied history of being a complete fucking psycho.
Yes. Yeah.
Good job, university. Good
It's
job,
like when
cops. Good
something's
job,
lost.
everybody.
It's like when something's lost in a bill, you know, in like a bill of, that they
Yeah.
pass and they sneak something crazy in there and you're like, "What?"
Yeah.
Um so all right, so October 5th, 2022, Murad Dervish arrived on campus. I almost said a rove. I was almost, oh, I'm tired.
Hero.
He arrived on campus and he went to the John W. Harshbarger building,
Mm-hmm.
which is a great name to say, Harshbarger.
Harshbarger.
Um, when he got there, someone did call the cops, recognizing that he was not allowed to be there from the picture.
Okay,
Um,
so that's good.
so something worked, kind of. He was unfortunately, however, able to find the time to make his way into the Department of Hydrology, where he looked for several different faculty members he had been harassing, but he ended up
Mm-hmm.
just happened to see Thomas Meixner first, who happened to be there, and he
Was
shot
he
him four
harassing him?
times. Yes,
He
extensively.
was one of the people he was okay. It was
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, remember he was head of the Jewish conspiracy or whatever
Oh,
the fuck.
right, 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 right,
Yeah.
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he's a department head, so of course he's going to
So
be
of
a
course
target.
he's yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. He shot him four times.
Mm.
Another person nearby was wounded by bullet fragments, and this witness would later obviously like say what happened.
Yeah.
And I believe from the witness, they know that Thomas Meixner's last words, dying words, were, quote, "I knew you were going to do this," said
Oh
to
my
Murad.
God.
Yep. Because he had
Wow.
threatened he was going to kill him probably up like 100 times, right?
But the
Like,
difference is like and okay, listen, anytime somebody threatens to kill you, it's serious and you shouldn't take it lightly and it's absolutely not okay. But that being said, like there is a difference. There
yeah,
is a difference between somebody who says that and you're like, you're just mad and you're being stupid, and somebody who says that and you're like, they fucking mean it. And it's
it's
an
just,
interesting and scary
yeah,
thought to like know it's happening and then have it
yeah,
happen, you know?
yeah. So it's so heartbreaking too. It tells you just how inevitable this felt for these people and like
Yeah.
avoidable, but
Yeah.
also like they completely saw this coming 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
They knew, and
s-
that's so
yeah,
fucked, and they knew they weren't being protected by anybody.
yes,
Universities are such
they did.
fucking
They did.
limp fucking noodles, man. Like, what is up with them?
Yes,
They don't do jack shit.
yes,
What a scary
correct.
fucking prospect to, like, send my kid to a fucking
Dude,
university.
I always said I like my whole life I never felt more unsafe than when I was teaching
That's
at
insane. That's so
at
fucked.
a university. Oh no, absolutely.
What this
Like,
says to me is, like, if anything along these lines ever fucking happens to Ollie where he's like, "I'm being harassed," I'm gonna be like, "You're leaving that school today, and you're never going back, and that's fucking it. That's it. That's
yeah,
it."
yeah, fair, yeah. So
Ugh.
Murad here flees the scene. Police eventually catch up with him. I'm not sure how much later time wise, but he will be in Gila Bend, Arizona, which is 30 miles north of the Mexican border. So pretty much he's on his way to flee to Mexico, is what
He's
people
trying to
think.
get the fuck out. Yeah.
Yes, because they're already in Tucson, so it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Um, he leads them on a very brief, stupid police chase, but eventually
Mhm.
cops somehow maneuver him and trap him without shooting him miraculously. I guess they can do that.
Yeah,
So
sometimes.
he's arrested and charged with first-degree murder and then also assault for that person he injured.
Of
He
course,
was
yeah.
clearly intending to flee, and in his car he had the gun that was later proven to be the one that was shot Professor Meixner,
Mhm.
along with a very wild inventory of items. I will not list all of the things, but they'd include several cell phones, one that had anti-tracking technology. Ooh, fancy.
Oh, okay. So this was
A bunch of
very pre-planned.
machetes, five knives, tons and tons of ammo, and changes of clothes. And also, people point out correctly so the fact that he had multiple weapons and a fucking pile of ammo indicates this very easily could have been a school shooting.
And
Like,
was probably intended to be, and
yes,
nobody searched
yes,
him, nobody stopped him, nobody
yes,
did jack shit.
yes.
Ugh.
So footage of Murad Dervish's interrogation show that even though he wouldn't talk to authorities without a lawyer, he you still get the sense 100% in what he does say that he's pleased with what he's done. He's like literally visibly smug with himself.
Mhm. He's, like,
um,
stoked.
Stoked.
Ugh.
Smiling, laughing, super pleased.
Ugh.
He tells detectives later on when he does talk, quote, I just felt so disrespected by that whole department. Which, okay, I guess also as like they punished him correctly for harassing them and being racist and insane by
Right.
expelling him. He that probably fed into his conspiracy shit, right? Where he's like, they're out to get me.
Right, right.
But you know,
You can't deal with, like, that level of, like, narcissistic,
yes,
paranoid behavior. It just doesn't
yes.
there's nothing you can do.
Some other jewels, just some gems here that Murad offers are quote, a woman wouldn't have done this, which
What?
I have a lady you should meet Murad Dervish named Amy Bishop, and
Yeah.
she sure as like
Yeah.
shot a bunch of her coworkers. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, so detectives went. He's very snarky and smug with them. Like I said, when they try to say that we'd like to hear your story, he goes, "I'm sure you'd like to hear it. You'll hear my story in court."
Oh, okay, cool
And
guy.
also in his threats, he's very snarky. He's always like, "You're not gonna like, what the kind of person I am, and you're not gonna like to see." And he's always like, he's all coy with his threats.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like
yeah,
and honestly, that little bitch behavior is probably
yeah,
why he didn't do, like, a full campus shooting, because he probably, like, once he actually shot somebody,
yeah,
like, "Holy fuck," which thank God, like, I'm glad that happened,
yeah.
but
Or could be because someone saw him and called the campus cops. Thankfully,
yeah,
so
definitely
that
could have
cut it
been that.
short.
Yeah. I
When
like
the
to think
officers
it's
walk,
his little shitty personality though, but anyway,
that's
go
also
ahead.
true.
Yeah.
When officers walk out of the room, the camera also catches him saying, also snarkily, quote, well, at least I fulfilled my mission. And then he smiles.
Fuck him. Like, ugh, what a pathetic
Gross.
life that is your mission, is to fucking kill somebody
Uh,
else for, like, I don't know. I mean,
zero
to be
reason.
honest, he sounds mentally ill, so I don't wanna be,
Yes.
like, too harsh because clearly, like,
Right.
something's
He
very
definitely is.
wrong.
Yes.
But as my mother proved to me many times over many years, you can be mentally ill and also an asshole. So,
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely
you know,
possible. It's a tough combo. It's really tough.
yeah, but
Um,
it happens. People
it's
achieve
real.
it. Yeah.
It's a deadly cocktail there. Okay.
Yes.
So about a week after the murder, Murad's father gave a statement that's wild, apologizing to the Meixner family and disclosing kind of the violent behavior he had dealt with, which I already went through.
Mhm.
And he even said that he hoped his son would go to prison for a long time, but hoped that no one else would be hurt in the
Okay.
process, or like that, but just wanted him to be put away because he was scared of his own son.
Yeah, he was like, "Hey, this
Yeah.
I'm really sorry this happened, but, like, we're all on the same team here. My kid."
Yeah, fuck this,
So,
fuck my
yeah,
son. He's horrible.
yeah.
So Murad Dervish hasn't gone to trial yet. He was set to start going to trial this month.
Oh,
Um, an article from June reported he will likely go for a not guilty by reason of insanity defense. Which, if this were Canada, he'd probably fucking get it because dude sounds mentally ill as fuck.
yeah,
He
yeah.
is going for his mental evaluation as of like 6 days ago, but it's America, and we like to be like, "You're fine."
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. They could be like, "Well, he is seeing things. He does think he's in a different century. He thinks
Yeah,
that he has a different name, but he still knew what he was doing."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's put him to death.
We
Like,
don't
that's
do that.
America. The shit that they will admit and then be like, "But they're fine to stand trial." It's just, like,
Yes, yes.
mind-boggling. But, I mean, hopefully he does get that because I think people think that not guilty by reason of insanity means that, like, you get to go home, but
No, in
generally
America, it means you get admitted to
A mental
like a
hospital.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, fucking America,
Um,
you might as well call them an asylum. I'm sure there's nothing
I almost said
beneficial about
asylum.
them.
I mean, how are they really not asylums? Like,
No,
so I mean, come
exactly.
on.
They are. The way that our healthcare and our
It's
prison
like
systems
American Horror
work.
Story season 2 up in there. It's like it's not
Yeah.
good.
Oh my God,
Um,
what was that place that Maury did the like expose on? Do you remember that?
oh.
God, that
No,
was
that
so
wasn't Maury, that was
fucked.
Geraldo Rivera, and it
Geraldo.
was
Oh, I feel so bad confusing the two of them. I'm sorry,
yeah,
Geraldo.
and
I
it
know the
and it
mustache.
was Willowbrook.
Willowbrook. Yeah.
Yeah,
God damn,
yeah.
dude. That shit was like out of a horror movie and but like worse because it was real and it's just
There's
heartbreaking.
there's a lot of terrifying ghosts like investigation shows where they go to the
Oh, I'm
abandoned
sure.
Willowbrook
I'd
too.
also just like to point
Um,
out that this is what happens when you fucking um when you allow capitalism to take over is like everything's for profit. So if they can't make profit, it's going to
mhm.
be horrific. So
Yes.
anyway,
Yes. Or they
anyway,
maximize the profit by making it horrific.
yeah, that
Um,
too. That too. Ugh.
so this Thomas Meixner's murder led to a student-led, of course, call for changes to school policies to increase student safety. Rallies were held for greater safety on the campus starting in May 2023. And a few months prior to that, in March, a report was actually done, ordered by the university about safety at the school, which they got from like an external, firm of some kind. Uh, they concluded in this report, which is public, you can go read it. It's boring, but I'll give you the summary.
Mhm.
Basically, they said that the threat assessment team at the university doesn't work. They have no crisis response plan, and generally, they fucked up on every fucking possible opportunity. And they had ample opportunity to prevent this in like every way.
Yeah, and just didn't
Um,
over and
they
over and
also
over.
should have warned people or done something about his previous complaints before he even got there. Because if you remember, he had restraining orders and harassment and
Yeah.
stalking and violent behavior complaints from San Diego, from his previous university. So it's like, why didn't
Jesus.
that carry over?
Yeah,
Um,
nobody paid any attention to this.
Also, this is going to make your head explode. Despite the faculty's continuous efforts, like filing complaint after complaint, criminal to the university, trying to get something done about this guy for a year. At the day of Meixner's death, the university police chief had a press conference where he said, "quote Moving forward, if you see something, say something."
Are you fucking kidding me?
hmm
That's
hmm
embarrassing. That's straight up embarrassing.
These hydrologists must have been sitting there watching that, like, I'm gonna
I'd punch the
fucking
fucking
flip out. I'm gonna
TV. I'd
flip
punch the
out.
screen.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Oh,
God. Dude, like that guy should never be allowed to like speak publicly again. He's clearly
mm.
very fucking dumb and out of touch.
In March,
Jesus.
in March, the Meixner family filed a $9 million lawsuit against the
Get
University of
him.
Arizona,
Yeah. Fuck
which I
yeah.
believe is still pending. Besides looking at university policies, other folks, including the university leadership, have, I think, rightly pointed out that there is also an issue at the state level because Arizona does not have any quote unquote red flag laws that in other states would have prevented Murad from getting an act from being able to purchase firearms.
Yeah.
Because in Arizona, when you buy a firearm, they specifically do not on purpose, they do not pull up any criminal things on your record, like his violent behavior, domestic violence, the time he killed his mom, the harassment, stalking, which in other, like I said, in other states would have prevented him from buying a gun.
Right. So yeah, I mean, Arizona, it's so funny how people equate like responsible gun ownership with like an infringement on your rights. It's like, no, if you're not like the type of person that shouldn't own a gun, like if you're the type of person who can own a gun and is responsible, then you'll be able to own a gun. And if you're like
No,
a fucking psycho who's going to shoot up a school, then we probably won't get one. Like that's it, man.
no,
That's all we're
like,
trying to do.
yeah, opposing every single possible precaution is like somehow the same with like protecting gun rights. And I'm like, why is this all the same to you guys?
No.
Like Republicans had a thing recently where it was like, oh, they opposed like not letting people on the terrorist watch list get guns, and I was like, are you all fucking insane? Like,
Yeah,
what?
like what?
Terrorists? I thought
You
you guys
want
didn't like
terrorists?
terrorists.
Yeah, but you want them to have it's
What?
just so interesting to me, like, the way that it works, like and I believe that, like,
Ugh.
Americans should have the ability to own guns because our government is fucking horrible and super well armed. So it's like, but
Mhm.
at the same time, like there has to be it's like you have to get a driver's license to fucking drive a car. Although a lot of
Yeah.
the people who are like gnarly NRA like lovers are also the type who are like, I don't have to have a license to travel. Have you heard those people? They'll like
Oh
argue and they
no.
refuse to get a license and they're like, it's in the Constitution. I don't have to
Is
have a
it?
license. And it's like, dude, yeah, you should look.
Is
There's
it?
like TikTok videos about it. They're fucking hilarious watching these
Oh
people get
no.
arrested.
I can't handle it.
Anyway,
Um,
these people are dumb. I wish they would
so
stop.
my last final tiny point here was just that a bunch of Jewish groups have also, I think, rightly pointed out that this crime should be deserves to be considered as an anti-Semitic hate crime, even though Meixner wasn't Jewish, because that was literally part of Murad's motives and thinking in this. So it's actually kind of like a hate crime mistakenly, in a way. Remember how we just did the hate crimes where the person was hate criming the wrong. You know?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like that because in his mind he was killing a Jewish person because they're Jewish, even though he wasn't.
So I mean, yeah, I mean that, and honestly, that fucking counts because like
Yeah,
if you, yeah, I mean, just because he wasn't
it does.
actually Jewish, like here's where that gets sticky in people's minds, and I'm just going to explain to you why it's the exact same fucking thing. If the person is not white and you kill them for being like Arab and they're like not Arab, they're just
Mm-hmm.
another non-white, people would be like, fuck yeah, that's racial profiling. Not only were they incorrect, but it's a hate crime. But if the person is white and you go, well, they thought they were Jewish and they're not, so it's not really a hate crime. No, 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 no. They still looked like they could be, were thought to be, and were killed for that
They
reason.
were thought to
So it's
be,
the same
period.
fucking
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, they rightly pointed out that the like anti Semitic tirades and stuff should have been a bigger red flag when the university found out about that.
It's real
Um,
interesting how that wasn't.
and there should
Really
have been,
interesting.
knowing Arizona as like,
I mean,
there
yeah.
are, there are probably zero things in place about hate speech being like being its own thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why they were going with like harassment and things like that, but they couldn't say hate speech or racist, whatever.
Right. I mean, when I went to Arizona, I remember when I was driving across the country, I went into a restaurant that had a sign specifically. It was like firearms not allowed. Like leave them in your car. It's like I can't
Oh
believe there
God.
like has to be a sign that says that.
I
Like,
mean, that's a good place to be though if they actually are not allowing the firearms.
yeah, I'm like, I'll eat
Um,
here. I don't want to get shot. Jesus.
that's so scary. Oh my
I
God.
know. Also, they weren't like checking. They were just saying it and then like that was it. It was just a
Right.
sign. Yeah.
Suggestion.
Yeah. Oh,
Well, yeah, that's it. What's really sad, Thomas Meixner seems like a really cool
I looked up
hydrologist and
pictures of him and he looks like the happiest man.
he looks very jolly. Yeah. And honestly, fucking props to hydrologists because you guys are doing important shit. Water's important.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool.
It's
I
one of
don't
those
understand it,
weird
but I like it.
it's one of those weird things that's like super, super important and they're like absolutely unsung heroes, but nobody knows who they
Yes.
are or what they do. Yeah.
Yes.
There's way too
Yes.
many careers like that.
Very much.
Oh my god. Okay. Fuck you, universities. Get your fucking shit together.
Yeah.
Y'all charge enough
Yeah.
money, you
That was
know.
also the common theme of my two cases was
It really
universities not
was.
doing shit.
Not
Yep.
doing dick, dude. It's fucked up.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna do one that's like super fucking bleak. There's no
Great.
point. In fact, some of the things that I've read, like the fucking headlines are like motiveless murder. You're like, oh, sweet. Okay.
Ooh.
This is
Okay.
great.
We did
So
that. That was a list.
murders without
Random.
motives, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Random. This,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's kind of what this is. So
Okay.
this takes place in early 2001 at Dartmouth College, which is in
Hmm.
Etna, New Hampshire. So a very quiet, small area. Dartmouth is obviously like a very nice, good college. It was
Very fancy.
established in like 1769, I think.
Hmm.
It is one of 9 colonial colleges chartered before the American Revolution.
Okay. So
So
founded probably by slave owners. That's cool.
yeah, probably. I didn't really look into it, but I should have. But it's an
Probably.
Ivy
Yeah.
League school, so
Hmm.
you know, fuck this place just generally. I don't believe in Ivy League. I think it's all bullshit. It's
Yeah.
basically like, a fucking old boys club where everybody's fucking handshaking and fucking getting their
It's
kids
true.
in, and it's just the gatekeeping education for to help maintain power.
But
Anyway,
I'm very proud of my nephew for getting into Princeton. Good job.
Oh, good job. That's awesome.
He's going to Princeton, yeah. It's
Well,
cool.
good for him. I'm sure he's not one of those people, and you'll
No.
keep him in line and ensure he doesn't become one.
No.
I mean, there's been a lot of change over the years
Yeah.
where some people who are not in those like groups still get in, but
Yeah.
it's I
There's
mean,
folks infiltrating
Ted
the weirdness.
Kaczynski, for instance, but he
Mhm.
was real disillusioned by his experience, and I wonder why,
Yeah, yeah.
Um, in any case, so this takes place at Dartmouth in 2001. It's referred to as the Dartmouth College murders. And I'm going to start by talking about half Zantop, like half, like the name half. It's the
Mhm.
word half.
Cool.
He's German, so that's why that's his
Mhm.
name, and it's not weird. It's German. And he was born in 1938. I guess his name means to help, and people who knew him throughout his life
Oh,
said it
yeah.
was a very, well suited he was very well suited to that name.
Very cool.
Yeah, to help.
I
Um,
I'm like, I knew German at one point. That's why I was like, "Oh, yeah, that is what that word means." Okay.
yeah, I know it's weird when you hear a word that you used to know and then you're
Yeah.
reminded, you're like, "Oh, shit." Then you think about how much you've forgotten of your education and you get sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, when he was a year old, his family moved to, Spain to get away from World War II. But then they moved back to Germany and back to Spain. So like Germany, Spain, Germany, Spain. My assumption is that he spoke at least 3 languages, probably German, Spanish, and English. So very, smart man. He got his education in Germany. He got his bachelor's there, and then he came to Stanford to
Okay.
pursue a doctorate. And while he was there, when he was, how old was he? I don't know exactly how old he was at this point, but um, and I think in his early 30s, and so in the 60s, I believe, or yeah, late 20s, early 30s. He met another German student, Susanne Korsukowitz. I apologize if
Okay.
I said that wrong. Korsukowitz, and she had graduated from German college in Germany, and was getting her master's, I believe, in political science. So these two fell in love. They started dating. They really, the thing they loved about each other was how like smart and driven the other was. When they talked about
Oh,
each other, it was always like, she was the best. They were, they were just like really enchanted by each other's intelligence, by each other's thirst for knowledge. So they were very well
cool.
paired in that way, which I love.
Academic power couple. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. They also had kind of like a shared trauma of being, Germans who grew up in,
Mhm.
the aftermath of the Holocaust, which is really
Yeah.
fucking difficult.
Yeah.
So, Half received his PhD in geology in 1969, got his first job as a field geologist, and they traveled the world on
So
assignments.
cool.
Yeah, that's why part of why they got married in 1970 was to make it easier for them to travel together. And then sometime during their, marriage, probably not too far in the future from what I'm talking about, they had 2 daughters, Veronica and Mariana. They
Oh,
were Yeah, they were very happy, very, just a great family, smart. And in 1976, Half was hired by Dartmouth College, and his wife later ended up working there as well, I believe. So, they were really like a power couple, like a super
yeah.
brilliant power couple. She wrote a bunch of books. She wrote books, she wrote the book Colonial Fantasies, Conquest, Family, and the Nation in Pre-Colonial Germany.
Oh, I like
Um,
it. Sounds good.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, she's probably was a badass.
She had me at Colonial Fantasy. I'm already interested.
Right? I know. I was
Yeah.
like, Diva's
Yeah.
gonna love this.
I like it.
Yeah. She was the chair of the German Studies department. So yeah. And
Cool.
she was the graduate director of the Comparative Literature MA program. So both of them worked
Nice.
at Dartmouth in very high positions. They were brilliant, they were wonderful,
Yeah.
happy and in love, even into their 50s and 60s. So
Wow.
on January 27th, 2001, a friend of theirs was coming over to have dinner. They were hosting a dinner party. Huff and Suzanne were hosting a dinner party. I don't know how many friends they were having come over, but the first one arrived, a woman, and very unfortunately, when she came into to the house, the door was unlocked. She called their names, they didn't answer. She comes into like their main living area, and she finds them both dead, um,
Mm,
on the ground,
oh my gosh.
suffering multiple stab wounds. So
Ugh,
she calls police. I can't imagine how jarring that is. Like,
yeah.
bringing a fucking pie to a friend's house and like for a dinner
Ugh,
party and finding
yeah.
this. So she
Were
calls
they already
police.
dead when she got there, or
They
were they
were,
just
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So she calls police and police arrive on the scene and it's fucking horrific. Um, but there's no like leads really. There's no motive. They start interviewing, family and friends, and everybody's like, we have no idea. They had no enemies. They tried the like affair thing, like, oh,
Mhm.
maybe it was a crime of passion, maybe somebody's having an affair with Hoff, and it was disproved like really quickly.
Okay.
There were a bunch of false leads, people calling in. A lot of these were beloved professors, so a lot of people wanted to help, a lot of people just wanted to be involved. You know how that is. So they're just
Yeah.
calling with random theories and leads, and nothing really is sticking. The one thing that police had from the scene was a couple of knife sheaths that were left behind, and they were thought to be the sheaths for the knives that were used in the
Okay.
murders. So eventually, police traced them back to wherever they were bought from, and they end up tracing them back to a kid named James Parker,
Okay.
and he, I believe, was 16 at this time.
Wow.
And I don't know exactly how they did it. There might have been like cameras or, a credit card use, something like that. But police basically go to him and they're like, you own these knives, like you bought these knives, like what's going on? So James here kind of says, "Oh yeah, me and my friend Robert Tolek, who was 17, we bought these from like a surplus store, but I ended up selling them. I sold them to like some random guy for some money because we decided we didn't want them for hunting or whatever." A really fucking stupid story, right? Very,
Yeah.
very dumb. So then they go to Robert and they kind of talk to him, and he doesn't really say much either. He is kind of clamming up. But police at this point are kind of like, we're pretty sure it's these guys.
Yeah.
Now, a little bit about these guys. To this point, they were from the area. To this point, they'd never been in trouble. They were both good students. One, I think Robert was like senior president of his class or some fucking such thing. The other
Wow.
thing to keep in mind when talking about this is a small community and they have a lot of money. So most of
Okay.
the people and the families who live in this area have good money. It's a lot of professors, it's a lot of, like Dartmouth related professions. And I think that part of these kids, their sort of success to this point was because of power and money and connections. Like, I believe it was Robert who was driving around in an Audi at 17.
Mm,
You know, like
okay.
probably his dad's old one, that was from like, 1999 and it's 2001. So like, I mean, I'm
Oh,
speculating here, but
yeah,
you
that's
get
you're
the
painting a
idea.
picture.
I'm
Yeah.
painting a picture of some like privileged ass kids who have nothing to complain about and no problems in life. So for whatever reason, these two little assholes were bored, I guess, wanted something to do, wanted to cause trouble. So, whatever. They decided to, I don't know, kill some people. I'm kind of jumping the gun because I'm so annoyed by them. But basically, the
Yeah.
cops decide they're going to keep fucking pushing and they keep pushing on James. Now, James is the younger one. And I guess cops sized him up to probably be the one more likely to, you know, to spill. And they were
Yeah.
right. He did. They basically just leaned on him until he gave in. And Parker here, James Parker, um, basically was like, "Yeah, we fucking did it. I will testify against Robert for a deal." So
Okay.
police are basically like, they go for it. And here's the thing, they go for it because, again, after sizing these kids up, they can kind of tell who's the ringleader, who's probably in charge, who did what. And they think, that Robert here was the ringleader and James was kind of the follower. So they
Okay.
decide, yeah, if you give us all the details, we'll cut you a deal. So what James ends up telling them is that for months the two of them had been planning to break into somebody's house, murder them, and rob them for their money because they were bored with where they lived and wanted to go to Australia, which how fucking random is that?
First of
Like,
all, here's a cool idea. You can just go to Australia. You don't have to
just
kill
go.
someone. You can just go.
Yeah, if your
Um,
parents give you a fucking Audi, they can probably afford like a plane ticket. The thing is, I think they were trying to
yeah.
like run away. Like these are the kind of kids
Uh,
that don't have any problems in their life besides being
yeah.
bored, so they're creating them. They're manufacturing.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
manufacturing oppression. They're creating issues. We're gonna run away from home, and we're gonna go to Australia, and we're gonna do whatever the fuck in Australia. Who fucking knows? I doubt they even thought that far ahead. But their
Yeah.
their whole brilliant plan was to find some unsuspecting people, rob them, kill them so they couldn't, tell on them, and and then go to Australia. And one thing that I left out was after the first day that they interviewed James and Robert, they fucking the kids ran. They went on the run. James and Robert went on the fucking run.
Ugh.
James left a note for his dad, and the note, the only thing, or no, Robert left a note for his dad. The only thing the note said was don't call the cops. And of course, that's the first thing that his dad did because
Oh
even though
my
Robert
God.
is a giant piece of shit, his dad apparently, at least to some degree, is not.
Yeah, it
So
has some
then they
moral
get
compass.
yeah, so they took off and then they get him back and they get James to crack. So again, they were going for like months door to door. And the crazy thing is, police later confirmed this because a man had reported within those few months leading up to the murders that two young men had come to his door. Um, or one had, I think they were both there, but one came to the door and said he had been hurt in a car accident, which,
Mm.
like, high Clockwork Orange, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like that is how in I don't know if you guys have seen the movie A Clockwork Orange. It's a classic masterpiece. The book is even
It's
better.
great.
But the way that they gain access to their victims' homes is by saying that there was a horrible car accident, people are
Hmm.
hurt, they need to come in to use the phone. So they were doing this, and this man was home and basically was like, yeah, no, you get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't fucking trust you. Fuck off. And he was home with his daughter and his wife. And so his
Mm,
like spidey senses or whatever essentially saved his family's life.
yeah.
And also he reported this to the police. So there's corroboration that like this was actually happening. They were planning this
Mm,
literally for months, which bothers me because what part of his story then became we went into the house. So here's what happens, then I'll explain my problem. So they go into the house of Hoff and Suzanne, and what they did, somehow they knew they were professors. So this wasn't like this was a random, they randomly chose them from what I've read,
yeah.
but somehow also knew what they did, which doesn't really make
Okay.
sense. But
No.
they come in and they say, we're students, we're doing research for geology, and we want to ask you some questions. And Half, like I said, his name means to help. Everybody who knew him was like, he'd give you the shirt off his back. He loved to help students. He was a professor who loved to
Yeah.
teach. He wanted people to learn. So he's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
And when
come
you're
on
a
in.
really good teacher, like it sounds like he was, like you also stop everything for a student. You're like, what can I
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did. He's like, come on in, young men. They were like, we're in high school, but this is our interest and our path and whatever. So he
Yeah.
welcomes them into the home. Suzanne's making, getting ready for this dinner party, and he invites them into like their main room, like either their study or their living room, and they
Yeah.
start kind of talking to him, and it's pretty quickly apparent that they kind of didn't know what to do. They weren't asking good questions. They weren't really
Hmm.
prepared for this ruse because they were obviously not there for that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Half kind of says to them, and if you guys have ever met a German person or basically anybody who isn't from America where we're like shamed into being polite about everything, Half just says to them, like, you're very unprepared. If you would like to get information, you need to like be better about preparing your questions. Like, you seem like you don't know what you're talking about or what you want to ask at all.
Yeah.
So he's very
That's a
straightforward.
that's a
Like,
German. Yeah.
yeah, like basically you're wasting my time and yours with this bullshit ass line of questioning, not line of like non-questioning.
Yeah.
So James then said that Robert seemed to get really upset by this and pulled one of the knives out that they had in fact bought for this purpose and started stabbing Half. And Susanne heard the commotion because obviously he's screaming and telling them to stop, and it's very horrific. And when she comes in, uh, what he starts stabbing her. Sorry, I don't know why I had a brain fart right there. Robert starts stabbing her. Now, at some point, he did get James involved. James either held them down or maybe did stab at one of them a little bit, but for the most part, he was sort of just there.
Yeah.
Um, and in his storytelling, kind of putting it as like all of a sudden he was angry and so he started stabbing half. It's like, no, you guys have been trying to do this for months. You can't then flip the script to make it seem like he started stabbing him out of nowhere. Your plan was to kill them with knives. That is why you were in the house. So to
Yeah.
preface it with like, or not preface it, but to sort of like frame it like, well, he got really mad because he insulted him and then started stabbing him. And I didn't expect that. Essentially, what he's doing is saying, like, I didn't expect that to happen. It's like you literally planned this and were there for this. So it was just
Yeah.
interesting the way he told the story to sort of like diminish his role. But in any case, police apparently did believe him because um kind of from the beginning they realized he was like the softer one and Robert was less so. So
Yeah.
he gets, I believe, he got like 20, around 25 years was like what he got. He didn't get a life sentence. Yeah, he was given 25 years with possibility of
Okay.
parole after 16 years. And then Robert Tulloch was given life imprisonment without parole. Now, I want you to remember that they're 16 and 17.
Oh,
So the
yeah.
25 years with parole eligibility after 16 years for a 16-year-old for this crime feels right. Life in prison with no possibility of parole for a 17-year-old does not seem right.
It's
And
never right. Yeah.
no. And in fact, New Hampshire later overturned that, or the Supreme Court did, and said basically you cannot sentence a teenager, a child, anybody under 18, I should say, because 18 and 19 are teenagers, but anybody under 18, you can't automatically sentence them to life without parole.
Right.
So now Robert has been appealing and appealing and appealing. The issue is that at the trial, since then, every day of his life, he's never shown remorse. He never gave a statement. He's never apologized to the
Mm,
families.
it
And
sucks.
people believe like he is labeled as like a certified psychopath.
Wow.
Like he has no feeling, no remorse. Was obviously the ringleader in all of this. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um for his part, James, so once Robert started, I keep wanting to call him Patrick, and that's why I keep fumbling. I have no fucking idea why. That's super
Mm,
not his name and not even
just
close.
looks like a Patrick, I guess.
He looks like a piece of shit. But in any case, when Robert started then appealing, James also started appealing, and he was appealing to be
Mm,
released sooner than his 16 years. So he was trying to get a reduction in his sentence because of how young he was. Now, the children of Hoff and Suzanne came forward and asked him to stop. They asked him to please withdraw his petition for early parole, to just wait for
mm,
the 16 years and let the thing take its course, because every time he would petition, they would get called into court. And it was very traumatic for them to have to relive their parents' murders. Even though they were adults at the time that their parents died, they weren't like in the house. It's still
right.
obviously extremely traumatic. So they asked James to withdraw his petition for early parole, and he did. He did, and he also has released multiple
Wow.
apologies to them. He
Okay.
has
So different
shown
approach, different take.
he has shown genuine remorse,
Yeah.
like, to the point where they even believe that he means it, and that's why I think they asked him to stop because they felt that he would, and he did.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Robert here, on the other hand, is like, fuck all y'all. I'm going to do this constantly. And as far as I know, he's still appealing his sentence, and he does have to be resentenced. He has not been resentenced yet. He's still
Okay.
waiting for that. But even so, they can resentence him to life without parole at this point. Like if they deem that necessary, they just
Yeah.
basically have to review the case and then decide how to proceed. So that's the fucking case. There are
Wow.
obviously memorials for both of them. There's like a memorial lecture, the Zantop Memorial Lecture in Comparative Literature, every
Yeah.
year in honor of Suzanne. I believe there's some like college funds and things. But essentially, like, the motive for this murder was kind of non-existent. Like the only
Yeah.
thing that they took from the house was like $340 that was in Half's wallet. They didn't even like,
Not, yeah.
yeah, they didn't even like, I think they were trying to get their PIN numbers, but were given like fake ones and then just like killed them. So
Oh
it's
my
like,
God.
they got nothing out of this. They had very, very little motive. It's essentially just boredom and immaturity.
Wow.
Um,
And just like two really cool people, smart, cool people died like a horrific
horrific
death
fucking death.
just for no reason.
Yeah, so that two really not cool people could get nothing out of it. It's just some completely fucking senseless
Yeah.
and totally depressing.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go.
There it is.
All right. Bleak on Bleak. We did a bleak duo this
Yeah,
week, I feel like, this
yeah.
episode.
Also, I feel like I'm like
Mm.
dreaming while I'm awake. Like I'm not even gonna remember recording this later. So
Cindy's
I'm
blacked out
I'm
on
completely
sleep.
blacked out. Just going. I've got this shit
You
memorized
did
though,
it.
so
You did a
that's
good
good.
job for being
Thank you.
unconscious.
You'd never
Yeah.
know.
No, it was great.
Goodness. All right. So next week, I sent this to Diva, thank God, like a week ago, because today I was like, I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember and I don't know what I'm doing. But luckily,
Shoot. You're ahead of the game.
we had it written down.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna grab a dirty sock and clean my glasses with it because that's the closest thing to me, and I have this really horrible smudge. I don't think the sock's that dirty. That's fine. Anyway, so what we're gonna do is modern day villains, like basically the most hated people right now.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna go for most hated and see what comes up.
most hated. So like Lucy
Yeah.
Letby is like a really good
Yeah.
one. I think the dick face from Delphi, even though we've done Delphi or Delphi, I always do that. I feel like we could redo it from the perspective of like talking about this shitbag and like what we know about him.
Mm-hmm.
We could probably redo Chris Watts because he's always a good one to hate on. Just
Very
basically
hateable. Yeah.
most, yeah, exactly. Modern day most hated fucking criminals. And for the record, the serial killer, I may have already said this. Do you know the serial killer that I hate more than any other serial killer? Like truly fucking hate him?
BTK?
Yes.
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 Oh,
When
he's hateable.
I read about his murder, he like talked in detail about his murder of the
Mm-hmm.
Otero family and especially
Yeah.
the little girl.
Yep.
And when I
Yep. Yep.
read
Yep.
that, I was actually like sick for like days.
Yeah.
For days. I
He's
hate him
also
so much.
hateable because he's just such a dweeb and he's also like so full of himself and proud of himself. And I'm like, no, you're a dweeb.
He's such a dumb piece of shit. I'm rewatching
Yeah.
Mindhunter, and it's so funny because
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
they're writing this knowing, having all the knowledge about him, and the FBI agents are like, "This man doesn't have a family. He doesn't go to church." And I'm like, "Ah, you wrote that on purpose because they fucking caught him through his
Yeah.
church." Like,
That's great. Yeah.
but
Perfect.
it just reminded me how much I fucking hate that piece of shit. But he's not modern, so we have to pick people that are
Well,
as
yes, he
hateable as
is.
him. No, it's got to be like more recent,
What?
I think.
What are you? How are you confining modernity?
I don't know. Put a list together and I'll pick the ones. I just feel like it's got to be people that are kind of recent
He
because I
got
feel like
caught in like 2005.
maybe we'll put a cap at like 2010. Like shit that's
Okay.
like more topical in a way. Like Lucy
Okay.
Letby was like
Okay.
last week. You know what I'm saying?
Villains of the news. The
Yeah, because
headlines.
like it doesn't have to be quite like that, but like she is obviously going to be she's like a modern day villain. Like her name is going to be a
Yes.
household name for somebody that you hate. And I'm
Yeah.
looking for that kind of energy. Like
Okay. Okay.
Kristen Smart, Paul Flores energy, but
Okay.
just a little bit less rehashed, a little bit more recent,
Okay.
if that
Sounds
makes
good.
sense. So now
Yeah.
you guys heard us talk through our process of getting the cases. In any case, that's what we're going to do next week. Thanks for listening, you guys. Please like, rate, review, join our Patreon, join us on Instagram, join us everywhere. There are
Yeah.
links in the
Please.
show notes. Also, did anybody look up Valerie Fabricant's LinkedIn? I definitely put it in the show
I
notes.
did. Yeah.
Not that exciting, but it's just wild that he has one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Murad
So,
Dervish also has a LinkedIn still.
of course, what a piece of shit. Fuck all these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go pet my cat and I will hope everybody has I'm going to pet my
Do
cat and
it.
go to sleep. That sounds bad. Um, in any case, until our next weirdly worked out set of cases,
Stay.
off our
Yes.
list.
Yeah.
Bye.